Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about stack views, creating them in code, using the live views, and all different aspects of it. The main idea is to use the stack view and also create them in only code with minimum drag and drop and the minimum amount of auto layout constraints. Secondly, to type the code here and see it updated right here in the storyboard instead of having to run the application. Okay, so let's begin. I'll be using these functions a lot, hiding and showing the project explorer, debugger, and the properties inspector, utilities. So step number one is to create a project. So I'm gonna enable the project explorer and create a new single view application. And that goes like this: file, new, project. Single view application, next, and I named it test stack view. I already have it, so I'm gonna click cancel. So here's the project. Now there will be a default storyboard, a default view in it, in the storyboard, and it's going to look like this. I'm going to delete everything. Next step that I need to do in the Project Explorer is add another class that inherits from UI view. Of course, it's not going to have all of these things in it. It'll be just and not even this attribute. A class StackView1, I called it, and it inherits from UI view. And that's it. The job of the Project Explorer is done at this time. So I'm going to hide it to give us more space. Now, actually, one thing before I close it is to click on the storyboard so I see it here, and then close it. Now I need the utilities, and I need a view controller, drag a view controller, and I have filtered it on view so I can see view controller, UI view. This is the view controller. Down below is the UI view. So I'm going to drag a UI view in here and expand it to fit nicely inside the UI view, inside the view controller. Reset to suggested constraints, and right below, if I click here, I can see that it has created constraints on the view. I'm going to hide that also. Now I'm going to go select the view and change the class to the custom class that I created a while back, just a few minutes back, StackView1. And now I am done with the utilities inspector, and I'm going to shut that. Now all I have is, let me explain a little bit of what's going on over here. Now this is a user interface, stack view, and it has a nested stack view. The top stack view has a vertical axis, so everything is stacked vertically, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a button. Top one is another stack view within the stack view, a nested stack view, and it has horizontal axis, so everything I put in it is aligned or arranged horizontally. Now let's go over to this class. First one is IB designable. That makes it a live view, so everything I type is gonna reflect in here. Next, I design or define some class variables, class level variables. One is just a margin, the other ones are labels, buttons, and stack views. If I don't define them as class members, they are not going to show up over here. So there are two ways. One, I say var label UI label. I'm initializing a label one. The second technique is to define label 5 of type UI label, an exclamation mark, is going to be initialized somewhere else, a button to stack views, an inspectable property, an add IB inspectable var call my text color of type UI color, giving it a default value of black, and when it did set, call it a set function where I can do some functionality. So that's the basic uh, outline or structure. Now this property is going to show up here in the properties inspector, so folks can change it in the design view. So that's the advantage of this attribute. The other function are overriding awake from nib, call the super, call the create UI, overriding prepare for interface builder, call the super, create UI. Both of them call create UI. Awake from nib calls create UI when running in the iPhone, and this function calls it while in the design mode. So that's why there are two of them. Create UI does the bulk of the work. We'll come back to in a minute. Set function doesn't do anything right now. Another override is layout subviews. It's called repeatedly. The other two that we just saw are called once. The user interface is created and everything. Layout subviews is called repeatedly. And anything I want to do, any updates after the initialization, I would do in layout subviews. Now some helper functions that I defined. A private function, create label. It takes a text, returns a UI label, creates an instance of a label, sets some very important properties that when you are creating objects, UI objects in code, that you set to false. This one right here, and some other another important property, and some other properties, and returns a label. Same thing with creates another private method to create stack views. It takes the axis, either vertical or horizontal, and sets that important property, sets the axis, some other properties, and then returns the stack view, a private function to create buttons. These just help me minimize the amount of code that I have written. A function button clicked, when a button is clicked, it'll be hooked up programmatically later on. Button is clicked, which button, and it just prints the button clicked right now. Okay, in the create UI function, I'm simply taking the label 1, calling the create label method, passing in the text as label 1. I just have a whole lot of labels because I just want to demonstrate the stack view. That's the point. So I have a whole lot of labels, some buttons, one button, and the basic idea is how the stack view can be created and programmatically. So I don't have any other fancy UI controls, but you can expand on it and have anything arranged any other way after this. Same thing with label 2, 3. On label 3, I set the property text alignment center. Just I was playing with it to see how they would look. Label 4, label 5, and then same thing with the button. Button is adding a target, calling the button 1 click method for touch up inside. So they'll wire up this function with when the user clicks on the button. Now for the stack view. Initializing the stack view by creating that utility or helper function. This axis is going to be vertical. That's the main stack view around everything. Adding to the stack view, add arranged subview label 1 and 2. Now creating a nested stack view. Another called stack view. Its axis is horizontal, spacing 20, distribution filled programmatically, and I was playing with it to see how it would look right here by changing values, and we'll get to it in a minute. and set a constraint. Some constraints we can't just really get rid of. And what basically this means is stack views width is equal to stack view 2's width is equal to stack views, how wide that is, so it's spread out from this way all the way that way. So you can't totally get rid of those auto layout constraints, but minimize them. That's what I have found out. It's like a combination or a hybrid between using 100% auto layout constraints and not having any constraints at all. Next, I'm adding label 3 to stack view 2, label 4 to stack view 2. So just keep in mind what stack view these labels are, or your objects are being added. Then I have here demonstrating a technique. I'm going to, in the stack view, I'm going to insert arranged subview stack view 2 at position 0. This is an example of specifically inserting an object at a specific location. So that's why it's up here, even though I have added label 3 and 4 before it. Label 1 and 2. I added it before sequence, but here I'm specifically saying stack view 2 should be the first one in stack view. Again, I'm going back to the add arranged subview 5 and button. So that's why they are down there, because that's the order they are added. Now I'm adding subview 2 to the stack view 1. Add a subview called stack view, and stack view has the stack 2. Stack view has the stack view 2, and it also has label 1, 2, 5 and button, and stack 2 has label 3 and 4. Then it's time to add constraints. Yeah, it's a hybrid approach, saying that a stack view's center is going to be a stack view's center anchor is going to be self.center x anchor, meaning its parent. Its parent is the view. So however big the view is, the stack view is going to fit in it. So that's what these constraints are doing: the top, bottom, width, and then NS layout constraints that activate all of these constraints, including the AA constraint. All of the constraints are going to fire up, and everything is going to fit in nicely. Now let me make a change. You see how the labels are blue? I'm going to change this to. Another thing I failed to mention is this is updated in Swift 3. So I'm going to change it to red. Nothing happened because, let me show you another aspect of it. I click here in this area. Now click on the editor. Automatically refresh views is disabled. It's very annoying. Every time I type something here, it starts to rebuild and it slows everything down. So click here, editor, shut this off or on as you wish, but that's how you would do it right here. You gotta click here. I couldn't find it, so I'd like to share with you. Click here. Like if I click here, click on the editor, that option isn't there. Click right over here, editor, sorry, right there. Now let me try one more time. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? I am not doing something right. Okay, so I have to click here. So you gotta, figure out what's the right point to click to get this option. Shut this on or off. But if it is off, I want to see my changes. I will say refresh all views. And if you see up here, it'll think for a minute. Changes will show up here. Takes a few minutes. I'll try to keep you entertained in the meanwhile. I'll just be quiet. I'll try to cut this off in the recording so you don't have to wait that long. There you go, see? The changes I can see instantly. Another facet of it, right down below, I'm going to click on it. There are different devices. Like this is as if I was looking at it at an iPad. Here's iPhone 6, no, iPhone 7 Plus, iPhone 7. Looks perfectly on all these devices. Landscape looks good. So here, that's it. Everything that you need to know about creating user stack views in code and doing all this programming in code and everything that you saw. Thanks for watching. Bye. One more thing. How did I get this one? I click here to get the assistant editor. Even then I did not see it, so I clicked on this button right here, not automatic, manual, test view, these are the folders in the project explorer, and the file that I associated as the assistant editor for this view was StackView1.swift, and that's how you can open up the right file that belongs to this one. So thanks, this is Bashir. Bye, take care.